Let's talk about the vibrational space of being in love, the experience of loving someone, emanating love towards another person, perhaps, and the experience of receiving love. So, love energy coming in, love energy going out, this circle or circular flow of love energy, feeling that. That's the vibrational space of being in love. How do you get there? You create it in your own vibrational beingness. You create the experience from within, and then you allow your human story to stretch to the point where it's playing out in your physical reality or your experience of physical reality. So your experiences are really dictated by the range of your vibes. And if you want to have the experiences that you associate with being in love, being able to get to do certain things with a partner, feel a certain way towards another person, having them feel that way towards you, then start by inviting yourself, inviting your beingness to go into the vibrational resonance with the frequency range of being in love. So everything in life is experiential in terms of a frequency range. So we can have a frequency range that's really boring in terms of what we're doing, what we're experiencing in the moment. We can have a frequency range that's exciting and wondrous. We can have a frequency range that's scary or fearful or anxiety producing. We can have a frequency range that's very peaceful and relaxed and calm. Now, when people want to attract something new into their life, they might start with visualizing experiences that are compatible. So for instance, if you think you want to have the experience of being in love, some people would start to visualize doing things of a loving nature, going for a walk together, holding hands, that sort of thing, having dinner together, maybe sexual things too, they might include. So those kinds of visualizations are really imaginative yet still fairly objectified versions of what's happening vibrationally. It can be helpful to do that as long as the visualizations that you're doing help you experience internally the vibrational space that you're wanting to move into. So if those imaginings, when you dream them up and daydream about them, if they help you feel the vibrational reality of being in love while you're holding those imaginings in your mind, that's very helpful. That's great. That will definitely help. But if you're going through the motions of visualizing these things, but you're not feeling a shift in your vibes brought about by them, then it's largely worthless. Then there's really not that much point in doing it. Because what you really want to do is you want to shift your vibrational state of being. Now, with being in love, you can do that without needing anyone else. You just sort of simulate the feelingness within yourself. So you start feeling, you can grab a pillow or something and do it with that. Start feeling the feelings of love and letting them flow, inviting them up, realizing you can create them because you're a vibrational being. You can just think about love and sense love and feel your way into the frequency range that you would associate with love. And when it starts coming up and you start feeling loving, you feel this love energy flowing through you, flowing out of you, then you want to work on the other flip side of that too, which is receiving the love energy. Because when you're in love with somebody, there's that flow of love, of loving the other person and being loved by that person. And so you want to experience both. And so now you imagine what it feels like to be loved by someone. Just imagine you're very loved. Somebody's saying, I love you. And they're giving you a hug and they're expressing love towards you. And you're really feeling that. So you allow yourself to feel love, feel that you are loved and you're receiving love energy. And then see if you can work those two in together. Because here's the tricky part that most people miss is that when you're in love, you feel both at the same time. You get to feel love for the other person and their love simultaneously, mixed together, blended together. So the mistake people often make when they do these types of visualizations is they're not getting that blended vibe quite right, or they're not doing their visualizations in such a way that they point to a blended vibe. For instance, they may focus so much on being loved and what that feels like, but they're not doing enough visualization of loving and feeling, the vibe space of that. And even rarer is being able to do both at the same time, like being able to have a singular visualization, like a certain scene that makes you feel your love going out and the other person's love for you coming in, both together simultaneously without flipping back and forth from one to the other, like you're passing through a loading screen on the way. Okay? You got to feel like it's blended together, like you can experience both those types of vibes simultaneously. You can do that, then now you're actually in the proper vibe space of being in love, what it really feels like. And now you can attract the experience of someone comes into your life, that you're attracted to that person and they're attracted to you, and you get both at the same time. Otherwise, what happens, and this is the tricky part, when people do the visualizations in such a way that they really just focus on one side of that spectrum and not the other side, then they get a story that comes through that's constrained by the limitation in those vibes, which means you can only have the kind of attraction where it's mostly one or the other, where somebody's attracted to you, but you're not really attracted to them, or vice versa. Okay, so you don't have the mutual attraction coming through because you haven't done visualization in a way that gets you into the mutual attraction vibe space. This is a common situation when trying to have a new experience in your human life that you think syncs well with a certain vibrational range. And so you kind of go to that vibrational range, but it doesn't bring through what you're really asking for. And that's because your vibrational range is inaccurate. That's simply the answer. If you're not having the human story go in a way that feels consistent with where your vibrational range is, it's because your vibrational range is consistent with the story. It always is. But you're not in the vibrational range to create the story that you desire yet. You're close, maybe you head in the right direction, but you're missing something there. So that's why I use the being in love vibrational range or vibrational frequency state as an example, because that's a simple one and people flub it up. They focus on being loving or being loved, or they do, some of them do both, but flipping back and forth. But it's a different frequency when both are experienced at the same time. That's perhaps the biggest challenge with extending your vibrational range, is getting into that feeling state that's accurate. So how do you know how it feels to be in love fully, where you're loving and you're loved at the same time, if you've never experienced that? That's the trick, right? My best advice there is to find other people who are in that range and they've experienced it, and ask them to go there, to be in that state while you're with them. And you could sort of pick it up from them. You can start to feel, if you're sensitive enough, you can start to feel what they're feeling. That's one of the best ways to do it. Don't learn from them based on the information and the knowledge and the advice they have. You got to be like in person with them ideally. You can do it over the internet, like on a call or something, but you really have to have some kind of connection with their energy, like in real time, and to sense that. And when they're in that state of, say, being in love, and you can start feeling it and feeling it, a sense of it in your own vibes, that's what will help you lock onto it. That's something I've used a lot to help me advance in certain areas where I was having trouble pinpointing the vibrational range, and all I had to do was find somebody who's good at going there. And I just say, go there now, go to that range, feel that, and then tell me about it, talk to me about it. That's one of the best ways, just have them talk. And you'll feel it in their tone of voice, it'll broadcast to you. You get a sense, like, what's the range they're in. You can feel what vibrational state I'm in just by watching me on your screen. You can get a sense of like probably how I'm feeling. Like, am I feeling nervous or anxious? You probably realize the answer to that is no. There's no nervousness or anxiety here. Do I feel, engaged? Do I feel motivated? Do I feel passionate? Yes, I have a sense of also like kind of a gentleness and a compassion feeling, rising. So I go to that vibrational range and then I speak from the range. And that's how I create. It's the same thing with you. You want to be in love, you go to the vibrational range and then you create from the range. Now, if you don't have anyone else you can go to, still the other solution is yes. And sometimes you'll guess wrong. It's okay. You guess the range is over here and it's not quite there. Then guess again. Then challenge your original assumptions. Say, okay, that's not really it. What am I missing? What could I be missing? And you'll see. We may have heard people wonder, like, why doesn't, if the law of attraction works, that's an oversimplification. It's not entirely inaccurate, but if the law of attraction works, then how come people who don't, how come people who just watch a whole lot of porn don't have all these, amazing sexual relationships? It's because they're not in the right vibrational range. Just visualizing a thing doesn't put you in the right range for receiving it. Only if visualization points to the right vibrational range. And so the reason people don't have those kinds of experiences is because they're not in the right vibrational range to receive them. One of the things they're missing is if they're watching porn and they're focusing on their attraction to what's on their screen, they're not focusing on the attraction of a partner to them. They don't feel that vibrational space of mutuality of attraction. Now they might logically understand, oh yeah. I could imagine like myself being attracted to that person and that person being attracted to me, but that's not the same thing as doing both together at the same time. So that's often what keeps us trapped a bit in our vibrational experience and what we can have in our human timelines is because we are missing some aspect of the vibrational range. And I give a fairly simple example of just where it's dual frequency ranges that you need to weave together at the same time, but it can be way more complex than that. So you might want to have some certain form of abundance in your life, but you're having a really hard time locking onto it, and that's because it might have 3 or 4 different components, and they all have to be balanced in just the right way to be able to get to that part of vibrational space. And then when you finally do figure it out and you can get there or at least get close, then you can start having your human story bend in that direction. Essentially, we're all vibrational wanderers here, or vibrational explorers. We're exploring vibration space as vibrational beings, and then within that space, we can also experience this human level story because we've created these avatars, these bodies, these human characters who get to move around within the space. So we've got those couple different levels to work on. But being in love, as far as vibrational experience goes, definitely a big thumbs up to that one. It's a beautiful one to experience. So if only in your imagination, see if that's something you want to invite in, see if you can imagine, this is the question, it's a vibrational question, what it feels like to be loving and loved at the same time. They don't cancel each other out. It's not a neutral feeling, it's additive. I've experienced that kind of feeling myself. So being loving and being loved at the same time, how that feels. Like a hug that's hugging you back. That's one way to, start stepping into it. What's it like to give and receive a hug at the same time? You feel your arms around someone's body and their arms around your body. That's one example. Now, if you can extend that, and imagine how to do that vibrationally, where you're giving love and you're receiving love at the same time, then you're definitely moving more in that direction. And then you're going to have the experience of your human story being able to unfold down that path. At least it becomes a possibility. There might be some other things you need to adjust to make it a probability or an inevitability, but at least you open up your storyline where it's possible for it to go in that direction. It's no longer constrained by an overly tight vibrational container. With that, the invitation is, as always, to make more conscious choices about your vibrational range and your vibrational container, because that's going to constrain your human story entirely within it.